We're at the headquarters station of the Belleville Fire Department, Betty Street, just across from the train station. We're doing a dedication ceremony, more or less a thank you for donors that gave us historic artifacts last year in 2018. History that went back 150 years, actually.
Today we are looking at some exhibits of old firefighter equipment and just trying to get everyone a chance, a flavor of what it was like in years gone by, about some of the tools and some of the techniques and some of the issues that fire services had at that time. Obviously we've come a long way, and we are very proud of the facilities we have today and the people that work for us through the Belleville Fire Service, and how we're safe and protected. But we also want to spend some time and go back and see a little bit of yesterday.
Well, we have a historical museum display at the fire station that was set up by Glanmore when we moved in 2015. We finally had space in the fire station to house artifacts to be able to show to people visiting the fire hall. And now through family connections of firefighters of years gone by, we've been able to have more artifacts donated to our collection. So working with Glanmore, we get those valuable archived historical artifacts cataloged and ready for display.
Well, we do have a display on 2 floors already, and we're looking to, the fire chief would like to add more cases to that display, so we'll incorporate them, some of the objects into the display. The objects we can't do that for now, we will store at Glanmore. The chief had a lot of vision. He wanted to have a display of objects. So he had that built into the plans at the beginning, the space for it, and then we came on board to give them the specifications for the kinds of cases that were required, and then we did the research and developed the exhibit.
Well, when we were looking to build a new fire station, we knew we were going to be building a new headquarters, and of course the previous fire station, the newest one, was 1953, so we hadn't done it in a few decades. So it was really important that we incorporate some space to present the history of the fire department. And when we went around and looked at other fire stations, we saw that was the trend, was to be able to display the history right at the fire hall. Because people often do visit the fire hall, what a better way to be able to show them the history than to have the actual artifacts here. So in the design of this building, we incorporated a museum space at the main foyer.
Well, I think there's 2 different issues there. First of all, I think people, when they come in and see the facility we have here, they're proud. We're providing our men and women that protect us with the tools that they need, and sometimes we would like to do more, and we were limited by how much money we have. But this is a good facility, and it's something that we're all really proud of.
What happened was Carson Cross, who is department historian, they approached him, and he directed the artifacts to Glanmore, because the fire department's not in a position to care for historical objects. So we do that for them, and then we bring them back to the fire department and put them on display.
A lot of it's organization, so we've had museum staff and archives working together. We've had the firefighters themselves getting ready for the event today, and support from the chief and the deputies, as well as from the families themselves that donated the artifacts.
My name is Jeff Russett. I'm the grandson and great-grandson of Gerald and Alan Vance. They were longtime firefighters here in Belleville. Gerald Vance was the fire chief in Belleville. He passed away in '74, and Alan Vance was a captain for 35 years, my grandfather, and he passed away in 2006. But my grandfather Alan had all of these artifacts in his basement, stored away, and we recently had to sell the house and clean the stuff out, and some of the artifacts family kept, and then I decided to gather up what I could and have it sent to Glanmore or else the fire department.
Actually, the families approached us. So the large donation was from the Vance family, or the Russett family, and it was his inheritance from his grandfather and his great-grandfather. So it's more or less keeping it in the family and want to make sure it would be around for his children and his great-grandchildren.
it's also important for everybody to remember a little bit of our history and where we've come from as a community. Belleville's growing, and our best days are ahead of us, but we still have some pretty great days that were behind us, and it's nice to go back and look at not just the things that we used to do back in the old days, but the people who did it, the people who have left us with the community that we have today that's so important and we're so lucky for.
It's a painted leather bucket used to fight fires before there was anything else to fight them with. And so it's very old, but the other cool thing about it is that it's from Belleville. We only collect things from Belleville.
Well, because it's my career, they're all awesome. But one is we have a pressure gauge from an original steam pumper before the turn of the century, so it's over 120 years old. And there's a bit of a story behind that where we had a steam pumper on the edge of the Moira River, exploded, from what I heard when I first started my career. So I look at it, I've never seen one before, and I wonder, is it the one that exploded or isn't? So that's kind of a really fascinating one. The other one is a helmet that has a lot of history behind it, because we have the other guy, James Cummins, we have his other helmets. So now we have the whole set of his helmets from 1881.
Yes, the fire pole. We were excited to be able to incorporate the design of a fire pole into this fire station. The fire pole, of course, has extensive historical significance to the fire service. Fire poles have been synonymous with the fire service for many years. So in this case, we were able to move the fire pole from the previous fire hall on Dundas Street. And it was my understanding that the fire pole on Dundas Street was actually moved from the fire station on Front Street, dating back to the late 1800s. So in fact, although this building is 2015, that fire pole probably dates back well more than a century. In 1949, the Moira Street Fire Hall was opened, and that closed the fire station at where Chilangos is now. So my assumption would be, as the Dundas Street Hall opened in 1953, that possibly the Hurley Law Office pole came from the Hurley Law Office, would have been one that would have gone on to the Dundas Street Fire Hall, which at the time in 1953 was built way outside of the boundaries of what is now the middle of Belleville.
It definitely was hard to part, but my grandfather had the room dedicated to showing people when they came in, and everybody loved to go to that room and see the stuff. So I didn't think it was very fair to not have it displayed out for the public. So yeah, it's definitely hard to part with it.
I think in a lot of cases people come across items and they're really not sure sort of where they came from or who they belong to. In this case, it was family members who were descendants of firefighters, so they sort of know who to reach out to. But there is actually a yard sale and yard sale finds that are actually significant historical artifacts, but people really don't know what they have. So this is an opportunity. If people have something like that, we have archivists that are actually experts in the field of being able to identify the different artifacts, their historical significance, and possibly even where they came from, because it was quite common with fire equipment that they would be labeled or branded or stamped to be able to be returned to the fire department after a big fire.
Having the family name attached to it definitely means a lot to us. Very neat to have this event here tonight in the large fire hall. This was built recently, and the smaller fire halls, my grandfathers were there, and I believe one of my grandfathers might have even built or been there when the one was built, but they would have loved to have seen this large facility and how great it is.
Well, they can reach out to us at the fire department, or reach out to Glanmore Historic, the Glanmore Historic site, the folks with Glanmore, and let them know of some artifacts they have. If the artifact is really delicate, we would just ask that maybe it not be moved too much, and that's where our historians and our archivists and our museum experts will be able to best know how to handle and care for something like that.
The fire station is, number one, is open from 9 until 4, Monday to Friday. People are welcome to come by. If they come by and ask if the personnel here are available to give them a quick tour of it, they'd be happy to show them around. We have an exhibit here which shows some of the gear that firefighters used to wear upstairs. There's lots of things to come by and take a look and ask some questions and learn a little bit more about our city and where we have opportunities to get better, but also where we're doing a really good job.
Actually, it's really cool because what we do is you enter on the ground floor, and it's more or less everything before the turn of the century. You see artifacts that are preserved with display panels. Then you go up to the second floor that is 50s and 60s items, but it has more of an interactive thing. So children like to touch, so they can ring the bell, turn the light on, see historic fires, selfie corner, touch helmets and that type of stuff, little magnet board, and then they come down and they can see the fire trucks on the floor, and they can see where we are now in progress. Now we're $1 million fire trucks, so it's quite you get to see the whole gamut, and we're open all the time.